We'll get started in a few minutes. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first show of 2025. This is January 9th. It is now 5 p.m. and Mrs. Chung, please call the roll.
Board Member Coveney, Board Member Gibbs,
Here.
Board Member Weil, Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Here.
and Chair Gannon.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks. And then let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, if you guys don't mind. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so the meeting procedure will be as follows. Don't mind me while I read the script. It's been a while. First, we're going to have public communications. At that time, any member of the public can address the board on items not on tonight's agenda, but in the purview of the Design Review Board. You will be given 2 minutes per speaker, followed by the consent calendar. Then we'll have a modification of agenda order, which I believe this evening we will have a modification. And then we'll have the regular order of business. The regular order of business will go as follows. While I introduce the item, the applicants will take their seats at the desk. Board will give ex parte. The staff will then present the summary presentation and provide any comments. The board will then question the staff. The public hearing will then be declared open, followed by the applicant team will have 5 minutes to make their presentation. After that, the members of the public will have 3 minutes to comment, followed by a 3-minute rebuttal. The board will then have an opportunity to question the applicant. Then the public hearing will be closed. Board will enter into discussion and deliberation. The board will then make an action, take action, make a motion, second that motion, have a discussion on the motion, if any, and then take a vote. All right, you ready? Okay, so do public communications first. All right, so at this time, any member of the public wish to speak on items not on tonight's agenda, you have the opportunity right now. Hello, love. Come on in. Anyone else? No? Ma'am, would you like to speak on anything on not on tonight's agenda? Okay. So then we will then move to modification of agenda order.
Want to do the minutes first?
Oh, yes. So the minutes we're going to continue to the next board meeting. Is that the 23rd? Go ahead.
Chair, I'll move we delay the minutes for approval to the January 23rd DRP meeting.
I'll second.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
and Chair Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes for continuance of the November 14th, 2024 minutes to the January 23rd meeting.
Wonderful. And then now we have 5.6 located at 629 Balboa Avenue. That is for continuance.
Do
We
we
have to
want-
open that to the public, right?
Well, do we want to modify is that what you're doing right now?
Yes.
Modifying the agenda?
Yeah.
It is, it is on the agenda. It's really the chair's prerogative. If someone's here to speak, it's clear it's being continued, but of course I will defer to you, Madam Chair.
Okay. So anyone in the public wish to speak on 629 Balboa Avenue? It's being continued. Do we have to have a public hearing on it or just continue it?
Well, just Chair, if I may, for clarification purposes, the applicant did submit a late request to the board requesting a continuance to the next Design Review Board meeting on January 23rd in order to have a full board present for the project.
Right.
Yeah, let me make just a quick comment, if I may, Chair. I'm concerned about this late requested continuance and the fairness to the residents. So I would like to hear, before I make a decision on how I'm going to vote, I'd like to hear if there's any residents that object to the continuance.
Well, hold on, because he's continuing because we have a short board. He'd like to have all 5 members be present.
I understand.
Okay, so it's our fault that it's being continued. It's the board's fault.
Well, the only thing is that, let me ask staff this. Does the public know we were going to have a short board today, or the applicant know that we were going to have a short board today? Or is that something that just they learned, today?
I believe probably for the general public, they did not know until they probably showed up to the meeting tonight. But for the applicants, they may have determined that because based upon prior meetings, site visits, contacting board members, that information may have been.
It's not that the staff in any way notifies a applicant that the board is short, so you have the option to continue it.
Correct. The staff did not notify applicants.
Okay, it's something staff may want to do. When the board's going to be short, in the fairness to us who are going out and visiting the sites, and also to the residents who've made time to come here tonight and made time for us to visit, that the applicant be told. And then if they don't make a timely request, that's something that the board can consider in deciding on a continuance. I think in light of what I've been told, I'm going to be in favor of a continuance. So, but I don't know for sure. The public has a right to speak on it.
So this time the public. All right, so anyone from the public wish to speak on tonight's project? You can get in line. It's okay. You have to speak just to the continuance.
Okay.
Yeah.
I happen to be right next door to the 629 Balboa,
Okay.
and I haven't seen the plan to see what they're going to be doing next door. But it just happened that I came at the same time for 598 Alta Vista, the plan that that Mr. Comcar is following on that to get the design review approval. So I came, and it happened at the same time that 629 Balboa is, doing a design review. But I wanted to see what their plans are, what is it, since I'm next door to them, just the immediate next door. So,
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
Does
Thank
that
you.
conclude your comments?
No, I just wanted to see what's going on, what is happening, at least have to be familiar to see what they're putting there, because the most concern would be, I guess, the next door neighbors, so, but I just wanted to see what the plan is, what's going on, so,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Next speaker? Just on the continuance. Okay.
My name's Michael Weebat. I live at 639 Balsana Drive, which is the house up above from the applicant's property. Let me just ask a question. I'm being asked to make a comment about whether we should continue or not continue. And my concern is that our voices may not be heard completely if 2 other members are not here. So this is the problem I have with and we weren't notified till just recently, as Wendy said. My view is that probably the continuance should be approved, but my concern is I realize at the same time that I don't know what I don't know. And because we don't deal with this every 2 weeks as you do.
Yeah.
So, but I would say that I would like to have all 5 people hear my views out. And that's with the presumption that I would be able to speak at a future meeting.
Did you fill out a request for a site visit?
Yes.
Okay. I recognize your name. Okay, thank you. We'll be
Okay.
in touch in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I will be able to.
Yeah, you'll be able to speak again in 2 weeks, and each of us will come out to your home.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
Chair, I move to continue item 5.6 at 629 Balboa Avenue to the January 23rd Design Review Board meeting.
I second.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
and Chair Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion or 3-0 vote for continuance for item 5.6 at 629 Balboa to the January 23rd Design Review Board meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Jung. Okay, so now for the regular order of business, we'll go back to schedule. 5.1 located at 2847 Alta Laguna Boulevard. Tim Nickel. Hi, Tim. Ex parte?
I visited the site.
Chair, I visited the site, and met with Tim Nickel there.
And I spoke with Tim Nickel and did a drive-by. All right, Mr. Wank.
Thank you. Good evening, Design Review Board and members of the public. Item 5.1 is a request for design review at 2847 Alta Laguna Boulevard, located in the R1 zone. The property is currently developed with a single-family dwelling with attached garage. The proposed project includes a 359 square foot elevated deck addition, retaining walls exceeding 5 feet in height, grading, spa, door and window modifications, and landscaping. Staff has not received any public correspondence regarding this item. Staff recommends that the board adopt Resolution 24-1267, approving design review 24-1267, and finding said action exempt from CEQA. That will conclude my staff summary, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wank. Board, do you have questions of staff? Okay.
Garrett, I'm curious that it says in the proposed project in the staff report that this does not require approval of a CDP because the proposed project is located within an exclusion area of the city. I was under the impression that the whole city is in the coastal. It would require a CDP. Can you address that?
So it is true that most of the city is located in the coastal zones, save for pretty much north on El Toro. But there are exclusion areas in which we don't handle or they do not require a coastal development permit. And this is located in one of those areas.
And are those areas designated somewhere on a map or where we can
They
find
are
out?
indicated on an LCP map located on the city
Okay.
website.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Tim, you have 5 minutes. Please don't use the whole
Good evening.
thing.
I don't need 5 minutes. I met with Tom at the site, spoke to Jessica, and I think you guys are clear on everything. Chris, do you have any questions for me? That can,
Well, we'll open it. Does that conclude your comments?
that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Wonderful. I love it. That was easy. Okay, at this time, the public, if anyone from the public wishes to speak on 2847 Alta Laguna Boulevard, now's your chance. No? All right. Would you like to have rebuttal?
I have one quick question. How tall is the retaining wall in the backyard to expand the backyard space?
It's just over 5 feet.
Just slightly, not 6 feet? Okay, thanks.
All right. Would you like to start comments?
I'll start. Modest, sensible improvements. No, little or no impact on the neighborhood. I think it meets all the guidelines. There's no variance or REP being requested. I had an issue regarding the retaining wall, just to make sure it was not, significantly oversized, but it's not. And so I have no issues with this project, meets all the guidelines. I can approve it tonight.
I would echo those comments from Board Member Kemp. I can support the project tonight. It meets all the design review guidelines.
And ditto.
Chair, if I may, I'll make a motion. If I can you hear me? All righty. I move that the board adopt resolution 24-1267, approving design review 24-1267 for an elevated deck addition, retaining walls exceeding 5 feet in height, grading, spa, door, and window modifications and landscaping, and finding said action exempt from CEQA under section 15301.
I second that.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
and Chair Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes for approval. Thank you.
Next up is 5.2, located at 1540 Arroyo Drive. Ex parte. I had a site visit and spoke with the architect, Ben. So, hi, Ben.
Same with me. I site visit and spoke with the architect.
I believe I just did a drive-by. I don't think I met with the applicant.
You have the floor, Kate.
Okay. Good evening, Chair Gannon and members of the Design Review Board. I'm Kate Kazama, Associate Planner, and item 5.2 is a request for a new single-family residence, attached two-car garage, landscaping, new vehicular access, public street improvements, and construction within an environmentally sensitive area at 1540 Arroyo Drive. The approximately 3,200 square foot subject property is located between Arroyo Drive and the Orange County Flood Control Channel and is within a 100-year base flood zone. The proposed project has been designed in compliance with the city's floodplain management standards and would not result in an increase in the base flood elevation of the area. The slide before you illustrates the proposed site plan. The applicant requests design review to construct a new two-story, 1,296 square foot dwelling with an attached two-car garage. Other improvements include new hardscaping, landscaping, new vehicular access off of Arroyo Drive, and minor public street improvements, including a new curb. The submitted plans indicate that the proposed structure and related site improvements would comply with the R1 development standards. This slide depicts the renderings from the front and rear of the structure. Current development standards require new structures to provide a two-car garage and construct the first floor level above the base flood elevation, which at this site is 3.3 feet above the existing grade. The applicant is proposing a two-story structure consisting of board and batten siding, stone veneer, and multi-pane windows with minimal plate heights of 8 feet on the first floor and 7.5 feet on the second floor. The proposed design is well articulated and provides upper level wall offsets at the front and rear to minimize the appearance of mass. Staff has received 3 late letters of correspondence from 3 neighbors. 2 comments are in opposition of the project and 1 comment is in support. Tonight, staff's recommendation is that the board adopt resolution 24-1785, approving the project and a categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA. This concludes my presentation. Both staff and the applicant team are available for questions.
Thank you, Kate. Or do we have questions for staff?
AP. Kate, just a question on the revocable encroachment permit. There are some improvements, but an REP was not required. Can you address that?
Correct. I believe the improvements are in the right of way, but they're not for the property itself. It's for their public improvements, street improvements.
Thank you, Kate. All right, you guys have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Kate, for the introduction and to the board for hearing our project this evening. My name is Ben Stevens. I'm the architect for the project, and I'm here with the homeowner, Chris Wyman, as well as the landscape architect, Liz Leland, behind us. Kate, if you could put up slide 1, please. Chris tasked us with designing a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home for his family of 4 on this property. We started by looking at the neighborhood along Arroyo Drive, which includes 3 vacant lots, one of which is Chris's, an auto body repair shop, the backside of Ganal Lumber, and a variety of single-family homes having a good mix of 1 and 2 stories that range from 715 up to 1,900 square feet with various architectural styles, materials, and colors. So our proposed 2-story, 1,296 square foot home with similar colors and materials to neighboring homes and no variances fits nicely in the middle of that square footage range and surrounding context. We do have a series of city development regulations that play a major role in the footprint, massing, and height of this design. Based on the dates of original construction, the other homes along this street were not developed under the same rules, resulting in building footprints and massings that we cannot achieve on this property today. These requirements include larger setbacks, a high base flood elevation, and an enclosed 2-car garage. Starting with the setbacks, Kate, if you go to slide 2, please. The current required front and rear setbacks are shown with red dashed lines along our side of the street. All the existing homes on this side of the street have square footage built within the majority of their front yards and even some into the right of way. 2 of these homes also have square footage built within their rear yards. The same is true for most of the side yards. This allows similar square footage to be spread out over a broader single-story footprint that's not feasible for a project being built on these same sites today. Now, on the other hand, the deeper front setback does have the benefits of providing visual and physical relief from the street edge, as well as providing for a standard driveway depth that can accommodate additional on-site parking. And then next, we have the required 2-car garage. Kate, if you could go to the next slide, please. Most of the homes on Arroyo have either no enclosed parking at all or just a single car garage or carport. As shown on this diagram, by the time we add the required 2-car garage plus the stairs to get up to the first floor from the garage, the front yard, and the rear yard, the remaining first floor livable area is only 688 square feet. Thus, the need for a second floor to accommodate the bedrooms, which we worked very hard to minimize the program and the room sizes at that level, both horizontally and vertically. In addition to the on-site parking, we have also created a public parallel parking space recessed into the new front curb. And then Kate, if you could go to the last slide, please. And finally, since the street is within the mapped floodplain, we have a base flood elevation, which is roughly 3 feet above grade, plus the addition of the required 12 feet of freeboard clearance, plus the floor structure itself, which results in a first floor starting elevation at roughly 5 feet above grade. In an effort to offset that starting point the best we could, we worked hard to minimize the overall plate heights and massing. And as Kate mentioned, the first floor plate height is at 8 feet, and the second floor plate height is only 7 foot 5 inches. The front porch is provided for elevation depth and articulation. The second floor is set back from the first and tucked into the first floor roof as shed dormers. And then just a quick summary of our neighbor coordination. Back in February of 21, the homeowner Chris hand-delivered an introductory letter and concept drawings to the adjacent neighbors. And from that, our next door neighbors, Sandy and Jan at 1530, requested that we move a first floor powder room window, which we did, and raise a second floor bedroom window with obscured privacy glass, which we also happily did. Then this past September, we sent out an informational postcard and held our on-site neighborhood meeting to explain the project and answer the various questions. The majority of the feedback was positive and supportive. All of this has resulted in a project before you this evening that we believe is a very modest home that fits well into the property and the neighborhood. And that's it for my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ben. At this time, any member of the public wish to speak on 1540 Arroyo Drive? Wow, nobody? It's your lucky day or an evening. Would you like to have your 3 minutes?
No, we're just here for questions from the board.
Okay.
Thanks.
At this time, the public hearing is now closed. Any comments or questions?
Want me to start?
Yeah, you can start.
First of all, it's a modest home with a modest garage. Plate heights of 7.5 and 8.1 are very low in our experience. I probably would be fine with taller ones here, but that's not being proposed. I think it's a challenging project because to keep it within the zoning, you essentially have to go 2-story. And given the floodplain and all the houses that are along Arroyo are not complying with current zoning. So for you to build this house and to comply with zoning regarding the floodplain, you have to go up 5 feet. So that's a given. I think it's laudable that you have done low plate heights to reduce the mass and scaling of this house. We could go back and tell you, hey, apply for the variance, so it's 1 story. But I looked down the street and there are 2-story houses there. Moreover, I think it's important to note is that Laguna, virtually every neighborhood, in fact, I can't think of one, maybe you guys can think of one, is a mixture of 1 and 2-story. Maybe Diamond Crestview, it's a mixture of 3 and 20 stories. But the point is that a two-story in this location is, in my mind, totally neighborhood compatible. Now, with regard to mass and scale, you could do a box, but you didn't do a box. I think your design is well articulated and meets the guidelines. I'm not so crazy about having all the windows on the upper level dormers, but I thought about that, and I think overall, I can't criticize the design. I think you've done so much to make this house neighborhood compatible and in compliance with guidelines, and more importantly, in consideration of the beauty that we have in Laguna Beach in all parts, including Laguna Canyon, which is a real gem in this town. So I think it's an overall plus. If you could reduce or add a little bit of articulation to the windows, that would make me happy. I'd be interested in other board members, but I certainly have, I am certainly, for all those reasons, willing to approve this project tonight.
What a challenge, I think. And I appreciate your presentation, because when I first looked at the staking, the story poles, I noticed that it was very close to the homes on both sides. But having you explain the fact that most of those are already in their own setback makes a lot of sense. So you had a lot of challenges from the get-go. I do agree with Board Member Gibbs on the number of windows on the second level. I think the design is excellent. It's creative. It's going to be the prettiest house in that neighborhood. The only thing I'm concerned about is the color, the stark white, because it's so rustic in that area. Maybe a softening, maybe a beige white, or something that's not so stark, so that it beams over the entire neighborhood. That would be my suggestion. On the second level, it's not a huge deal, but there are a lot of windows on that second level. I don't know if those could be combined, maybe reduced from 3 to 2, something that doesn't make it seem so much of the glazing is what I was concerned about for the most part. But other than that, I think you've got a fine project. Like I said, quite a few challenges. You've met all the design review guidelines, and with those suggestions, I can support the project tonight.
All righty. And overall, I can support the project as well. For me, what I noticed that aside from the other neighbors having multiple neighbors in the area having two-story homes, I noticed that your neighbor to the left, who has a single-story home, it looked like you were trying to design your upper level to complement their structure and architecture. So I took note of that. So I'm totally fine with the upper level housing or windows. I can approve this project this evening and find staff's recommendation for approval worthy.
Well, should I make a motion since Louis isn't here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I move that the board adopt resolution 24-1785 approving design review, 24-1785 and coastal development permit 21-1788 for a new single-family dwelling with attached garage, landscaping, new vehicular access, public street improvements. By the way, we appreciate that as well. Construction in an environmentally sensitive area, water quality, and finding said action exempt from CEQA under 15303.
Member Gibbs, would you accept, in addition to that, that the outer stucco not be high white, that it be a softened white? if the applicant doesn't have a problem with that.
I think they call it a Santa Barbara white.
Is that something that would be agreeable to you?
Yes, and the stucco is going to also be painted like the siding, so we'll put up samples and sure we can do an off-white or a cream.
It's not a
Can we
big deal.
leave that to working out with staff, the exact color? But I would add what
Santa Barbara
Board
white.
Member Thalman said, which is why don't you
A
just
softened white.
a softened
That's
white
Santa
to
Barbara white.
be
Yeah.
worked out with staff
Yeah.
rather than the bright white that you have. So with that amendment to the motion, that's my motion.
I'll second.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
And Chair Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a 3-0 vote for approval,
Thank you, board. Appreciate
You
it.
get the easy
subject to the
button.
conditions of a softened white
Yes.
color.
Thank you. Thanks, Kate.
Okay, next up is 5.3, located at 598 Alta Vista Way. Absolutely, thank you. (598) Alta Vista Way. Board members, I had ex parte. My ex parte was just a site visit.
Mine was a site visit. I did leave a phone call for the applicant.
I did nothing because I know the project.
I know it too. Nice to see you guys again. Mrs. Stephen,
Good evening.
ready whenever you are.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, board members. Item 5.3 is a request to construct a new single-family dwelling and attached two-car garage on a vacant building site at 598 Alta Vista Way in the R1 zone. Next slide. And next slide. The applicant is proposing a 2,431 square foot single-family dwelling and attached 400 square foot two-car garage. The proposed project includes vehicular access, 406 square feet of elevated decks, grading, retaining walls, and landscaping. Next slide. The project was previously considered by the Design Review Board at two hearings on November 9th, 2023 and January 25th, 2024. At the final hearing, on a 4-to-1 vote, the DRB could not make the findings to grant a third hearing because they believe the applicant did not follow previous direction provided at the initial hearing in good faith, and further design work on the project was in the best interest of the community. The DRB had previously requested that either a hedge or fence be installed along the west property line to resolve a remaining privacy concern relating to the adjacent property at 2590 Juanita Way. The architect has modified the exterior materials by adding stone veneer accent on the front facade, a wood garage door, and wood accents around the front door on the north elevation. There are two stucco colors proposed, a warm gray on the lower level and an egret white on the upper levels. Next slide. The proposed project is the same size, mass, and height as previously reviewed by the board. The proposed project now includes a 6-foot-high wood fence along the west property line. Minor corrections were also made to the plans for zoning code compliance relative to the proposed on-grade stairs along that same side property line. Next slide. One letter of support relating to the current plans was provided by a neighbor residing behind and uphill at 678 Alta Vista Way. No letters were received in opposition to the project. Staff recommends approval. However, staff also recommends that the board deliberate on privacy concerns previously identified by the DRB when reviewing the application submitted previously by the applicant in January 2024 and consider additional conditions if necessary. This concludes our presentation and we have available for any questions.
Any questions of staff? No. All right. You have 5 minutes.
Again, I'm good. I work with Said Design Studio, and in response to the request of the adjustment that we received, we made some minor adjustment to the facade. One of them is adding the new color and also the wood material to the side of the building. As you can see on the rendering, to bring more visual depth and also contrast to the building. The fence material choice now will align with the overall look of the building. And the other change that we made is just raising the window sill at the side elevation to kind of improve the privacy by raising the sight line from the outside. And also at the rear of the building, we made some like opaque glasses. Yeah, privacy glaze windows. Yeah, at the bathroom windows. So that was one of the comments that we received. So these are basically all the changes that we made to the drawings.
Does that conclude your comments? 5 minutes?
We are done.
Okay,
Yes.
wonderful, thank you. At this time, any members of the public wish to speak on 598 Alta Vista Way, please come to the podium. Oh, you're getting the easy button. All right. Okay, you have 3 minutes if you'd like to proceed or just field questions from the board.
No, if any questions, we can respond.
Okay, do you guys have questions? Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
I'm sorry, you can go ahead. For the 6-foot fence, what type of wood are you proposing?
Those are wood slats.
I saw that. What type of wood?
Type of wood, I think we specified that on the rendering and the colored elevation. I cannot
I
remember.
did not see it. Do you remember?
Oh, you didn't see that?
In your material board, it just says wood slat color natural.
Yeah, and there is not specifically like a manufacturer for this kind. So it's just we try to show the look of the slat and the color of it because there are different manufacturers basically. So we can choose it in the construction documents when we proceed with the work.
Okay, so you haven't
purpose for the
chosen the
question?
type of wood.
No, not the manufacturer, basically, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I just was puzzled on when I went to the site. It looks like it's the same staking that was done back in 23. Is that correct?
That's
There's no
correct.
change to the stake.
That's correct. yeah.
Okay, that was my only question.
All right. Questions been asked? Going once, going twice? Public hearing is then closed. We'll go into comments. I'll lead off. So I was ready to approve this last time with conditions of approval, and I was the one vote that was against denying your project. If anything, I wanted it to be continued. So I'm ready to approve this project this evening. I think your proposal tonight is even improved from the last time. And I didn't see an issue with privacy last time. That was valid, and I don't see it this time. So in my eyes, I can approve this project tonight. I agree with board's findings of the 16 commandments, I like to call them. And yeah, that's it. I'd like to see what the other board members have to say.
Well, yeah, I would echo Board Member Chairman Gannon's comments as well. I do like the materials. I think the materials are a big improvement to the project. It really makes it stand out. As far as the privacy of the fence, I think the wood fence addresses a lot of those privacy issues, so I'm not as concerned. I did wonder about the landscaping on that side. Is there landscaping on that side as well, in addition
No,
to the fence?
no, there is
Okay, it's
no
just a
space
fence.
for landscaping. Yeah.
Right, I knew it was a narrow spot. So having meet the design review guidelines, I can support the project tonight.
Yeah, I was very close to Chair Gannon last time. I thought the project met the guidelines and was satisfactory. I did want to see a privacy barrier between your house and the next house. I was preferring it to be landscaped. I thought that was the solution. And, for whatever reason, at the second hearing, nothing could happen on that. And I was rather confused leaving it as to what the solution would be. So now you have the solution. It's important to make that fence attractive and not use cheap wood.
Of course.
So the only thing I would request that we include to work with staff that you're going to put in, use, a wood that meets the standards of the rest of the home, which I expect you to do anyway. In choice of materials. So that's something that I don't want to hold up approval. And we'll just make that as a request to staff to work with you in the selection of materials that it maintains the quality with the rest of the house. And with that, I can approve the project.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to make a motion?
I sure would. All right. Okay, I move that the board adopt Resolution 24-2144, approving design review 24-2144 and coastal development permit 24-2145 for a new single-family dwelling and attached two-car garage on a vacant lot site, new vehicular access, elevated decks, grading, retaining walls, and landscaping, and finding said action exempt from CEQA under Section 15303, with direction to work with staff to choose the material for the side privacy fence to be consistent with the quality of the remainder of the house.
I'll second.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
and Chair Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes for 3-0 approval.
Thank you.
And you
Thank
get the easy button.
Thank you.
Next up is 5.4, located at 2210 Crestview Drive. While the applicants are taking their positions, my expertise is I spoke with the architect and I drove by the site and conversed with Julie Howard.
I had nothing. Didn't need it.
I drove by the site and Chair was going to request an expedited hearing on this one.
Yeah, the reason I didn't need it is because this met, I reviewed, I think the board reviewed the project, a conceptual design review. The project hasn't changed, so that's why I did not go by this time.
Fair enough. Kate? Yes. Can we expedite this?
Okay.
Oh, she's so sad.
Definitely. I loved it the first time.
Yes, item 5.4 is a design review and variance request to combine two lots and construct a new swimming pool, spa, and pool deck at 2210 Crestview Drive. The project was previously reviewed by the board during a concept review hearing in January of 2024. During that meeting, the board was overall supportive of the project and that the proposed request would be less of an intensification of use than proposing a new home on the vacant lot. Since the concept review hearing, the applicant has elected to proceed with the same design. And tonight staff is recommending approval of both design review 24-0155 and variance 23-1745 and the associated categorical exemption.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kate. Any questions to staff? I have one, and I believe you answered it earlier. What is a riprap pad? Oh, it's you said it was a water collecting device or something.
Yeah, it just cuts down the velocity so the water doesn't go crazy down a hillside. So it helps when it intercepts in the catch basin there.
And then where does it go from there?
Huh?
Where does it go from there? I'm sorry, I'm out of turn. I'm supposed to be asking staff. I'll ask
Yeah,
you
no,
later.
because
If
I
staff
have a
can't
few-
But
answer.
I think it's all integral. So
Okay,
it's
we
part
have,
of it.
we have
Hang tight,
to.
we'll come to you in a second.
Yeah.
Kate, did you want to answer that or do you want to defer it?
Okay. Okay, you can answer it now. Logistics.
Oh, you want me to answer that?
Yeah, she gave you the
okay,
floor.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so it's an integral system, so it breaks up the water. So it's kind of like a French drain, I guess. So
Okay.
it's not really hooked up to anything, but it just helps break up the velocity of the water. So when it collides into the box, it doesn't, go crazy, right? So it's a percolated kind of system, in other words.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have questions for staff? We're questioning staff, not
No,
the
I have a
applicant.
question for the applicant, but
Okay.
let's get to that point.
All right, so you have 5 minutes for your presentation.
Okay. So let me go ahead and address some of the
It's your presentation,
Yeah,
it's your 5
it's-
minutes.
Yeah, so this empty lot doesn't have any occupancy. It's just a lot as amenity for the existing house. And this gives them, a chance to, enjoy this amenity, a swimming pool with a spa. And in that, being it's a hillside, we have some tier walls. We attempt to keep the walls down as low as possible, re-landscape the whole area as well. There are some areas which the walls are a little bit higher than, where probably where the variance was in there, but it's also tucked underneath the overhang, or it's a column that may be more than the height restricted. So we're trying to keep it downplayed without making it look like it's some massive monument there on the hillside. So we're trying to fit into harmony, make it a good neighbor for everybody as much as possible. Mhm.
Does that conclude your 5 minutes? Does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah, unless you guys want to add anything.
Okay,
A big part of living in California is to enjoy outdoors.
absolutely.
And that was the whole purpose of the project.
Okay.
And we're hoping that this is a much more ideal situation than sticking an ADU and everything else. We're just trying to create high density, more traffic, and this is not going to impact the area for more bedrooms and things like that. So it's actually sort of a luxury for the community. I think it's an attribute to have this versus letting it sit empty and let it be a developer take charge and build something else there.
Okay. Well, at this time, any members of the community wish to speak on 2210 Crestview Drive? No? All right. You have 3 minutes. Would you like to field any questions? Move right into questioning? You're done, okay. You guys have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, just briefly. So the excess of 5-foot retaining wall is at the stairs that goes down to the pool level? Is that right?
Yeah, we're between the pool and the home.
Right.
We have to access to the lower level. There's already a stair. I think there's already a stair there. Yeah, it just kind of meanders different, but there's already a stair there. So we're basically just retrofitting the pool to complement the terrain and that's around that area there.
That was my recollection. And no one can see those stairs from the adjoining streets, right?
Oh, right.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Well, there's a lot of growth there. You can't see a whole lot right now.
No,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see.
All right, I get it. It's just a small section of the wall. The rest of the wall is 5 feet. Okay, an answer to my question.
I have another question for you. So I love that, by the way, these are partly my comments too. I love that you guys stair steps with the 3-foot walls. Like it helps create the appearance of scaling into the wall or the hillside. Are there any of the existing trees that are going to stay that will have the ability to grow over the right of way like it is right now? Because when I went up there today, the way that the landscape is overgrown, it's causing that street to become a one-way street as opposed to two-way.
The lower street you're talking?
Yes. So any of those trees, I guess my question is, any of those trees going to exist that have that ability to impede the right of way?
Well, most of it's going to get disturbed by construction. It's going to be replanted. So hopefully you got a landscape plan. I think you were asking me about landscaping and was it deferred or where is it? But we have submitted a landscape. We have a licensed landscape architect who's landscaping that area. So it'll be all taken care of.
Okay.
That will be cleaned out.
Yeah, I figured. Okay.
Most of it's rough foliage and
Yeah, it's just a mess right now.
Right. So can we make a condition of approval that any existing trees not overgrow into the right of way? That's just common sense. Okay.
And that's on Crestview Place?
Yes, down below.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Okay. All right. Well, I kind of already gave my comments with the questioning. I can approve this project this evening with that condition of approval. Yeah.
And Chair, I have nothing really to add. I can approve the project. It seems very self-explanatory. I appreciate the fact that you're using the lot to add an amenity to your home, which, as you said, very adeptly, that someone else could do. Who knows? An ADU, 3-story home. So I can approve the project tonight.
Yeah, I mean, as I said back in conceptual review, this is a well laid out project, so much better than building a building there. There's nobody, adjoining it except your house, which means that you can develop it in a way that would suit the purposes that you've done. And I think you've done it very intelligently. So I can approve the project.
With that, Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the item 5.4, 2210 Crestview Drive, and adopt resolution 240155, approving design review 240155 and variance 231745 for construction of a new swimming pool, spa, elevated deck, retaining walls, and grading, and find said action exempt from CEQA under CEQA guidelines section 15303, or alternatively, section 15301, with the following conditions: that the new landscape plan keeps the overgrowth of any trees into the right-of-way.
Right.
I can second that.
And just so it's clear, the right-of-way is,
Down below on Crestview.
I forgot it.
Is that Crestview down below?
Crestview Place.
Crestview
Crestview
Place. I
Place, yeah.
forgot and I moved my page. So I second.
Okay.
So just to clarify, do we want the proposed landscaping within the right of way removed from the plan?
I think it probably will be removed, won't it be? Because you're stair stepping that hillside with 3-foot walls.
They would be replacing or replanting new plant species.
I think it was overgrowth.
Yeah, so
Any
a condition of approval that any existing or future planting not overgrow into the right of way.
Can I just quickly share the plan just to clarify that we are all on the same page?
Is there currently a landscape plan?
Yeah, I think the current landscape plan keeps the develop or the landscaping outside the public right-of-way.
Well, technically, if you can see, this is the property line. So they do have existing landscaping within the right of way already that they would be replacing.
Right.
So would we want this just removed?
They're actually going to be
Right.
replacing the land that's within the landscaping within the right-of-way that's not being used for the street.
So we just want to make sure that the landscaping doesn't overhang into the paved right of way.
Yeah, I think.
Correct. Yes. Yes. That's exactly right. Yep.
So I would move that we amend the motion to state that there, as a condition of approval, there be no landscaping growth onto the paved portion of the public right-of-way on Crestview Place.
Place.
And I'll second that.
Wait, hold on. And are you guys proposing anything under 3 feet? Is there anything above 3 feet along that road? Okay, great. Beautiful. All right.
It was Christine.
Okay, do you have everything you need? A
Good.
clear understanding? Okay.
So we got to vote.
Yeah, Mrs. Chung, please take a vote.
So we had a motion made by Chair Pro Tem Thalman, and then it was amended by, or seconded by.
It was
board
amended
members.
by me and
Amended.
seconded by her.
I don't know if she can make the motion and second it though.
No, by Chris, by Thalman.
No, I seconded the original motion.
Oh, I amended the motion and then she seconded the amendment. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, so not to get too technical into Robert's rules.
Actually,
I kind of took that as a substitute potential motion, but I believe we are all clear on the.
no, I amended Chris's motion.
I
so-
seconded the motion.
And so it's
Yeah.
not being made on my motion. It's made on Chris's motion, which I amended and Chair seconded. Does that work?
Perfect.
Okay, now let's
The
vote.
motion was
I
made
love
by
that
Chair
the
Pro Tem
retired
Thalman,
attorney is
amended by
confusing
Gibbs, seconded by Chair Gannon. Okay, Board Member Gibbs.
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman.
Yes.
And Chair Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you. 3-0 vote for approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
We're 4 for 4.
No one in the audience knows that that sounds.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I like to fly under the radar. Okay, next up is 5.5, located at 530 Ruby Street. Will the applicants please come to the table in ex parte? I had a site visit with the applicant team and spoke with Kelly Brochu.
I had a visit with the applicant team, the architect, Mr. Peterson, and owner John Hensley.
I similarly had a site visit with the applicant, Bill Peters, and the owner, John Hensley.
Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you.
All right.
Good evening, everybody.
Wait, hold
Oh,
on. We
yeah.
have to have
Oh.
the planner. This is the one where Daniel? Okay, so Daniel is sick. He got the sick, so is he?
I'm here.
Hi, Daniel.
Oh, this
So Daniel's going to present the project and then we'll move to the presentation. Okay. All
Okay.
right, you're up.
All right. Item 5.5 is for a project at 530 Ruby Street. The project involves design review, a coastal development permit, revocable encroachment permit, and variance. The project site is located in the Diamond Crestview specific plan. There's an existing structure located on the property. There is no garage currently for this property. The proposed project involves a major remodel, which involves additions and demolitions to the existing single-family residence and adding a two-car garage, door and window changes, an elevated deck, grading, retaining walls, a spa, and improvements within the public right-of-way, which include a pedestrian access path, private vehicular gate and driveway, and public parking space. A coastal development permit is required for the ADU, which will be a conversion of the existing space that structure. The RAP portion of the project, on the left, you see Crestview Place. The extent of the right-of-way is outlined in red. The existing public parking space is shown in orange, and there will be a new, the two parking spaces are shown in blue. So the new parking space is moved over and a new parking space is provided next to it for this project. And the turnaround area is highlighted in yellow. For the Ruby Street portion on the right of this slide, the driveway is highlighted in green. There's a line across the driveway that's highlighted in blue, kind of hard to see, but that's the vehicular gate. And the pedestrian pathway would run up along the side of this driveway. For the variance, there's two portions for this variance. One is that the existing structure is located within the front yard setback, and as well as the driveway exceeding the required 10% grade. So the setback, the front yard setback, is outlined in red there. Orange is the highlighted area in orange is encroaching into the front yard setback for the existing structure. And in yellow is the portion of the driveway that's located in the Diamond Crestview specific plan, but within the right-of-way that exceeds the 10% requirement. Staff received several letters of support. One letter with concerns from 509 Diamond Street adjacent to this property. And staff is recommending approval for all 4 of these entitlements. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Daniel. Any questions to Daniel?
One quick question, Daniel. The maximum grade is 14% or 14 degrees?
So the maximum grade allowed per code would be 10%. They are proposing a 14% grade in that location of the driveway right here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was the maximum grade for their project is 14%.
Yeah, that would be the average grade for that portion of the driveway.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Christine?
Daniel, you don't sound sick.
Thank you. That's nice of you to
sound
say.
very good.
How's the snow up in Mammoth, by the way?
On the revocable encroachment permit, just a clarification, this revocable encroachment permit is for the private driveway, private electronic driveway gate, and private retaining walls. Can you address this issue? Because I'm a little concerned. My concern is with the REP, the operative word here is revocable. And so does this mean their private driveway and gate goes away if that, I know it would never become a street or taken over as public right of way. That was my only, just to clarify that. It's more
Sure.
for education purposes than anything else.
Sure. So you're correct. Those are the components of the REP request. And the public walkway is a separate request. It's not technically part of the REP. But regarding the driveway, yes, if the city were to provide a roadway through this area, which is infeasible in terms of the grade that's existing there, then the driveway would have to be reoriented to connect to that street, and therefore would still remain in compliance in terms of providing access to this property, to the 2-car garage and the parking. But yeah, I don't think that would ever
Okay.
happen.
No, I appreciate the clarification. Thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Okay. You have the floor. 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is John Hensley. My wife Christy here behind me, and architect Bill Peters. I moved to Laguna Beach 37 years ago. My wife moved here about 20 years ago. We met in this town and have enjoyed raising our 3 daughters here. We purchased 530 Ruby Street in 2009. We loved the cottage, large 11,000 square foot lot, privacy, and amazing views. I knew when purchasing it that we'd need to do a lot of work. It's old, doesn't have a driveway or a garage. It's a landlocked property sitting between, as you've seen, Crestview Place and Ruby Street. In 2012, we began working on plans to address these things while also expanding it to meet our growing family needs. 2015, we presented our plans for DRB review. Unfortunately, that meeting didn't go so well. The DRB communicated that they would have never approved plans with access from Crestview Place. Of course, we were disappointed. It's mostly disappointed, though, that there was just such a disconnect between what planning was telling us to do and what the DRB wanted. It was mostly around access, not the house or anything like that. It was access, and you design the house based on the access, whether it's coming from above or below. Immediately afterwards, we began working on this new set of plans that we're presenting today. However, this set came with even more challenges. At the request of my wife, and my life probably as well, I'll spare you the details on those things. I would love to go into them if anybody wants to listen. It's been a very long 8 years with a lot of hurdles that we've had to cross. However, I will note that we went through multiple plan revisions and story pole installations for planning and neighbor review since our 2015 DRB meeting. Our goal has been to address every concern that has been brought to us. A couple other things to note for your consideration. Even though we've been required to take access from Ruby Street, we question why we are still being required to widen the end of Crestview Place to create 2 non-conforming parking spaces, as well as add a 27-foot turnaround. Our property doesn't even have street frontage to these improvements. Second, we were required to include in our plans the restoration of a public walking path on the paper street adjacent to our property. This included numerous meetings between city departments to gain consensus. We also became the point of contact for all the neighbors. The prior path was removed when the neighborhood decided to underground the utility lines. The undergrounding provided us no benefit. Plus, the path should have been restored as part of the undergrounding project itself. Instead, it's something we've somehow been forced to deal with. To meet with all the different departments, delayed us 2 to 3 years getting through it. I was told a few years ago that the city has funds allocated to do this work, so even though I was required to include this in my plans, I asked that the city cover the cost to restore their walking path. It's been a long and costly journey. We see this as our forever home and hope that we'll finally get approval today. I do want to say on a positive note, in all of my years on this project, dealing with city staff, this, for one, Daniel has been a blessing. He's been amazing. And I've definitely seen a lot of improvements with the staff at the city and the process at the city. So, for that, we're very grateful. It's much better.
And I'm Bill Peters. I just want to address a couple issues that we would normally touch on, which is the variances. The two variances, one is the driveway, and it's a very steep transition from Ruby Street up to the property. But Ruby Street is already at 20% pitch already, and we're kind of continuing that all the way up to where we meet Diamond Crestview. So that 14% transition area, it's not really a Diamond Crestview driveway. It's more of a Ruby Street driveway anyway, but it's being held to that norm. So it averages 10% from where it enters Diamond Crestview to the face of the garage. But yes, there's a steep little section in there that's 14%. And this is all just basic on where we came into the lot. So it's kind of more dictated by the site than us wanting something. And just one other thing real quickly, and that is the setbacks on the house. The setback is dealing basically with an existing structure. Again, that was something that the city asked us to retain, and we're doing our best to do that. But so both of these variances are not really something of the whim of the design and anything. It's all basically imposed on us through the site. Right? That's it.
All right. At this time, any member of the public wish to speak on 530 Ruby Street? Oh, yep. Go ahead. You come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. When you hear the buzzer, you have 30 seconds from that time.
Hi, I'm May and Dennis Parrott. We live at 480 Ruby Street, immediately contingent and south of the proposed project. We've known John and Christy for some time now. They have been diligent in listening to and addressing the concerns that we had about the property. We're aware of is the word travail appropriate, that they have been through at the hands of the city. So we're here to speak in favor of their project. Let the music begin.
Well said. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on 530 Ruby Street? No? Would you like a rebuttal? Or move into board questioning?
No, but we're here to answer any questions that you might have for us.
Okay, the public hearing is then declared closed. Any questions to the applicant? Christine?
I got my question answered.
All right, we'll move into board comments.
I start? This is a very unique lot, and as I said, when I saw you out there, I think your design is not only beautiful, but fits really well within that location. I think it's a challenging project, and with that said, I think the design is excellent and meets all design review guidelines. So let me address both the CUP, REP, and variance. First, with the CDP, we're being asked in your project and a lot of projects for making the findings necessary for a coastal development permit for an ADU. And one of those findings is finding 1, criteria 6, which has us look at the visual compatibility of the project, including the ADU, to the community or to the neighborhood. In this case, it is the same house as being in the existing house and is visually compatible, and in fact is historically visually compatible with the neighborhood. So I can make the findings for the CDP. With respect to the REP, I'm glad board member Thalman raised the issue there. But I see the absolute appropriateness for the driveway to go where it does. And this kind of relates also to the variance dealing with the slope issue. I think to afford the privilege that other homeowners have to have decent access to your house in a driveway requires the issuance of the variance, makes us able to make that finding. So I'll give the overall reasons why I think the basis is for both the REP and the variance. It's really important that parking consider, the neighborhood and the location of the house. And I apologize I feel bad for your prior experience off a Diamond Crestview. But if I was, the master developer, I would put your access at Ruby to begin with. It makes sense for Diamond Crestview from a matter of public safety because it's a nightmare up there. And removing a house from that area and bringing it down into Woods Cove is a major plus to the community. On top of that, putting 2 public parking spaces up there is a major plus to the community. So in that sense, I see your project as not only well-designed and appropriate, but a plus for the community. With respect to the setbacks for existing house, we do that routinely. I think that all the criteria can be met for that house and accordingly can make those findings. So I'm prepared to approve the project in total tonight.
I'd like to reopen the public hearing. I forgot to ask staff a question. So I understand the having to add public parking, but why is it up to the applicant to pay for the turnaround? Isn't that a city expense? Shouldn't that expense be put on the city? I know in the past when this has come around and the fire marshal or the city tried to put it on the applicant, we were able to approve it without that obligation to the applicant. Are we able to apply that this time around?
Can you give us maybe 30 seconds to a minute here to consult? Sorry, give it.
Absolutely.
You might want to also ask the same question about the stairs. I'm pretty committed to both those features of the project. It could impact how I vote, but I do believe there's an issue of cost here. And I understand from the applicant that there's, city funds to pay for that public access stairwell from up on Diamond Crestview.
So in regards to this project, Public Works in their review, they did require that the turnaround be provided for safety reasons. But I think the question at hand is more of whether or not that the cost would be covered by.
Required by the applicant. Wouldn't it be fair for the cost to be the city's duty?
So just to be clear, my understanding, and Daniel, if you're on there, if you can bring up that slide, I don't believe it's the entirety of the turnaround area. It is just kind of a smaller little backup. Go ahead. Fran.
Yeah, Daniel, feel free to chime in, but he's messaging me. So the city council did indicate in terms of consideration of splitting the cost of the public pathway.
Right. And then, so for the turnaround, that turnaround marked in yellow, is that up to the applicant to cover the cost? And if that's a benefit to the public,
Right.
why is the applicant covering that cost?
What exactly is being constructed there? Is it a whole turnaround or is it just dividing the parking spaces into 2 and putting in the yellow for turnaround?
Yeah,
It's
so the
very
yellow,
confusing.
I can chime in. So the yellow area is so the 2 new blue, indicated in blue parking spaces have a place to turn around, and you can kind of see in the dotted lines how a car would maneuver. Currently, there's the orange space there, and there's no turnaround area. So in order to kind of turn around there, you have to back up, maybe back into the neighbor's driveway. But this will allow the cars to turn around completely within the public right of way safely. And this was it's typical requirement to have a turnaround area for public parking spaces such as this. And yes, the one new space is a Diamond Crest View specific plan requirement to have. So
Understood. I was confused. It looked like the typical turnarounds with the orange, you got the stick and then the circle at the end. I thought that was the turnaround.
no, that's I mean, that's the public right of way, and where that you would typically have some kind of cul-de-sac turnaround area, but the street was never built out to that extent. It just ended up being a dead end.
Okay, and can you confirm that for the walking path, the city walking path, that bill is going to be processed with the city and that's going to be the cost from the city?
So there was discussion at city council when this project went before them, mention of splitting the cost, something along those lines. But that's not really what's before the board right now. So that's not really included in this staff report or anything before you right now, because that's something that would essentially be worked out after these entitlements are approved.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
So Daniel, can I just add on that? Would it be a separate agreement between the applicant and the city?
Right. That would come later after you were, if you were to approve the pathway as proposed.
Yeah.
If you look at attachment 13 of the staff report, it does have the minutes from the city council meeting. So at that time, council member Zerschmied made a motion that was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Eisman, and it says they
Where's that again?
I'm sorry, attachment 13 and page 3 of that attachment. So that paragraph where they make the motion. So it says they unanimously 5-0 to direct staff to proceed with allowing access to 530 Ruby Street from Ruby Street and to work out the specifics of the access with the owner of 530 Ruby Street, John Hensley, and his consultants, and to include the restoration of the public pathway that formerly existed between Ruby Street and Crestview Place, and to include potential city participation in restoration costs.
Not sure it's our jurisdiction to work out those cost arrangements. So I think we need to approve it, and I mean, assuming everything else is okay, and leave that to staff as directed by city council.
I agree.
Is the public hearing still open?
No.
Oh, I thought. when you-
Well,
you were
I did open the public hearing, because I wanted to ask questions to staff and I had to reopen the public hearing for that.
I just want to add one little thing.
Yes.
And that is that turnaround at the parking up above, that requires a retaining wall to do that because, again, the slopes are dropping off. And I just wanted to, the parking is mostly a grading project until we get to where we have the turnaround, and then we have to put in a retaining wall to do that. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm ready to
The
make a
public hearing
motion.
is now closed. Well, we have to make our comments. I
Oh.
can second, board member.
I think
You made comments, but.
Okay,
we did.
that's right.
I can second to expedite it. I can second. I'd like to support board member Gibbs' comment and just add that, yeah, it seems like that Ruby Street is just a continuation of Ruby Street until you hit that 10%. So with that, I believe access is feasible. And I can support staff's findings and ready to approve this project.
And I would echo my fellow board members' comments. This was a difficult site, and I appreciate your diligence and patience. And maybe you'll remember this date in infamy that you got your project. It does meet all the design review guidelines. The access makes sense to me from Ruby after hearing your explanation of how that went down. And then the only thing I got confused about is that, you know, from an access point, we're going to put public parking on Crestview, but we're not going to allow access from Crestview. So it didn't seem to make sense to me, but I'm glad you've agreed to take care of the safety issue. I think it's a public benefit to your neighborhood. And I can support the project tonight. I have nothing else to add.
Well, this is a long one, so sit back.
You can also expedite it and just say the recommended action in the staff report.
I don't need to read the whole thing. We have a habit of doing it. So let me just refer to the specific items that we're approving without going into the detail. I move that the board adopt resolution 24-0021 approving design review 24-0021 as described in the staff report, as well as coastal development permit 24-022, again as described in the staff report, as well as revocable encroachment permit 24-0023 as described in the staff report, and finally, variance 24-0025 as described in the staff report, and finding said action exempt from CEQA under 15303.
Second that.
Let's try not to cough. Board Member Gibbs.
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman?
Yes.
And Chair Gannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0 for approval.
What?
You can hit the. Thanks very much.
No.
Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, right.
12 years, yeah.
I keep a tight ship. All right, so 5.6 was already continued earlier. 5.6 was located at 629 Balboa Avenue. That's already been continued. We're going to move on to 5.7, located at 31731 Seacove Drive. 31731 Seacove Drive. While the applicants take their positions, we have ex parte. I had a site visit with the applicant team, including Steve Cortani. I also visited the home of Mr. Burns, and that's my ex parte.
And I visited the site, met with David Parker, Steve Cortani, neighbors Ralph Bertolino, and James Burns.
Excuse me, sir.
Keep it down, please.
We're running a meeting.
Okay, I'm the site visit with Dave Parker and Steve Cortani. I met with Dave Gray, Dave Roman, Ralph Bertolino, Mario Vaughn, and Jim Burns.
Oh, you're showing us up.
I know.
Heather,
Thank you
your
very much.
fabulous presentation, please.
Thank you so much. Tonight, item 5.7 is a request for design review, coastal development permit, and variances at 31731 Seacove Drive in the R1 zone. Next slide. The site consists of 2 lots and has a 10-foot wide private road easement across the southern frontage of both lots. The existing site is developed with a single-family dwelling and an attached 1-car garage on one of the lots, with a swimming pool and cabana on the second lot on the western portion of the site. Each lot is 60 feet wide and 40 feet deep, not including the 10-foot road easement, which does not conform to the minimum 70-foot wide and 80-foot deep lot dimensions of the R1 zone. Next slide. The applicant is proposing conversion of the 1-car garage into living area, 641 square feet of additions, which would be located on the main level of the home plus 2 additional levels below. A new 469 square foot 2-car garage on the lowest level with a new driveway at the western portion of the site, and 733 square foot elevated deck, grading, landscaping, and a new swimming pool. Next slide. An attached 928.4 square foot 2-bedroom ADU is proposed at the mid-level of the structure, which does not require design review. The ADU would be located below the proposed elevated deck for the main dwelling. The city's ADU ordinance prohibits roof decks on ADUs. The proposed elevated deck is not considered a roof deck. The city has historically viewed roof decks as decks above the uppermost story of a building. In this case, the deck would not be located above the uppermost story. Rather, it would be at the same level of the primary dwelling and accessed only from the primary dwelling's great room on the upper level. Since the deck can only be accessed from the primary dwelling, it's clearly intended to be only used by occupants of the primary dwelling and not as a roof deck for the ADU. Next slide. Staff believes that most of the design criteria can be met by the current design. However, concerns have been raised by 3 surrounding property owners regarding potential privacy impacts from the proposed elevated deck and pool. In addition, concerns have been raised regarding potential impacts to coastal views from the project. Staff is requesting the Design Review Board consider whether all applicable design criteria have been met. Next slide. The existing residence encroaches into the required 20-foot front and 10-foot rear yard setbacks. As stated, the applicant is requesting variances to allow the proposed additions to be constructed at 4 feet 10 inches from the front property line and 4 feet 6 inches from the rear property line. This will match the setbacks of the existing residence. A variance is also requested to allow the structure to encroach into the required additional building setback area. And lastly, a variance is requested to allow the swimming pool to be constructed within the front yard setback area. Staff believes that all the required findings can be made to grant the variance requests. Next slide. The project is comprised of 2 separate lots. The project proposes construction across the common lot line. Therefore, a condition of approval has been added to require approval of a lot line adjustment by the City Council to merge the 2 lots into one prior to issuance of any building permits or grading permits for the project. Next slide. If the Design Review Board determines that the project is consistent with the design criteria and all findings can be made, then it's recommended that the board adopt Resolution 24-1151, approving Design Review 24-1151, Coastal Development Permit 24-1152, and Variance 24-1153, and finding that this said action is exempt from CEQA. Staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
I have one question. Is the lot line adjustment and with the staff report and any of the attachments, or do we have to make that a condition of approval?
It's already included as a condition
It
of
is
approval.
included. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, board members. I'm David Parker. I'm the architect for this project, and we're very happy to present it to you tonight. I'm here with my clients, Joseph Prainer and Mitch Friedman. And I want to thank the board for spending time with us and the staff also for all the time they spent and for an excellent staff report. This is a minor addition to a small 1-story home with a 1-car attached garage. The house is at the top of a very shallow lot which steps down toward the ocean. The existing house is 1,227 square feet with 8-foot ceilings. The garage is 182 square feet. The rear yard is mostly decks, patios, and a full-size pool. There's almost no landscaping, and there's no driveway, so cars must back out onto Sea Cove. Where are the slides? I need to see the slides, please. I'll continue. There is a special circumstance which requires a variance to build anything due to the shallow lot. There's only a 10-foot wide strip between the setbacks. This is typical of Sea Cove and Sea Cliff. Nearly every lot is shallow and nearly every house has reduced setbacks as built, shown by the red lines on your exhibit. A variance is required to be able to improve and enlarge the very small and substandard house. For our addition, the owners directed us to build up and not down out of consideration for the neighbors' views. The design maintains a low profile and steps down the slope. The mid-century design was maintained and enhanced, and a 2-car garage was added at the lowest level with a driveway and turnaround. And there are several benefits to this project. Can I skip through a few slides, please? Keep going, keep going, keep going. Next. One more after this one. This is the proposed design. Benefits include removing trees which block views, improving parking with the 2-car garage, providing landscape along the front, and removing that solid wall, and reducing the amount of the activity area in the rear yard by 1/3.
Now, next slide, please. These are before and after pictures, if you can zoom out, and you can see how the low profile has been maintained, and the height of the roof is comparable to the houses across the street and the general low profile of these smaller houses. Next slide, please. This compares the existing rear yard with the proposed rear yard, which really is a terrace, which is really a rear yard because it's their only activity area. It's been reduced by 1/3, and the pool has been reduced also by 1/3. Next slide, please. There are several other decks in the area comparable with ours. Ours is 733 square feet, and we fall pretty much in the middle of some of the decks in this area. Next slide, please. This is a graphic presentation of some of the decks. Now, I'm not even counting the rear yard. Several of these houses actually have a yard in addition to that. Next slide, please. So this is our final design again. I feel like we've worked very hard to design a sensitive, modest, and neighborhood-compatible project, which will enhance the neighborhood, and we look forward to hearing your comments. But first, I'd like to introduce Mr. Prainer. He has a few things to say.
Hello. Hello. Just want to, first of all, thank you for taking the time to consider the project and the staff and the board, because I know it takes a lot of time and everything like that. And make my mother happy. I have a 95-year-old mother who's going to be moving into the ADU, so she's happy and anxious to see that happen too. But I want to also enhance on the deck area. It's really the backyard for the house, and the whole concept of living by the beach is to be able to go out on your deck, get the ocean breeze, have a cocktail or coffee in the morning. I mean, it's just an extension of the house as a backyard. And because we've cut it back, I feel it's a very important thing for the access from the house to the back area. It's really the only common thing. Anyway, but pleasure meeting you.
Good to meet you as
We
well.
look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation?
That concludes our presentation.
Okay. At this time, any member of the public wish to speak on,
Good evening.
what is it? Oh, hello.
Yep, I'm Jim Burns. Thanks for visiting my house. I live to the house directly north to this project. I've been there for 20 years with my family. And I have a number of concerns, most of which I addressed in letter to you. Please take a look at it, January 6th, and the pictures. But tonight, with my limited time, I just want to go over my points of opposition because the privacy intrusion caused by the roof deck, and then the related view obstruction, the southwestern ocean view corridor for my family room, kitchen, and deck, and so forth. To illustrate the extent, scope, and magnitude of the view intrusion into my home, please take a look at this picture. This is taken 2 feet from my bedroom and my master deck. And here you'll see the red flags. That's the railing, the proposed roof deck. The green flags are the bottom of it, so you can see clearly that anyone standing on that roof deck has a large viewscape, a privacy intrusion right into my bedroom, and the entirety of my bedroom. You see these red flags from every part of my bedroom, most of the parts of my bathroom, 2 feet out of my shower stall, 2 feet out of my bath. You can see these red flags, which means the people on the deck have a direct line of vision, a direct line of sight to me. Same with the kitchen, same with the family room, same with the dining room and the lower deck as well. And what's the cause of all of this? The cause of all of this is the applicant is insisting upon having a deck that takes their existing 143 square foot deck, expanding it 5 times to 733 square feet, taking their existing deck that goes at about 10 feet and pushing it westward, contrary to the pattern of decks in the neighborhood, 35 feet westward, all the way out to here. So at any time, they can turn around and look into my house. This yellow pole there, that indicates the entire area where this when this ficus tree is removed, this will all open into an intrusive viewscape into my home. It shouldn't be allowed. It can't meet the requirements of the zoning rules. There's a prohibition on roof decks. The variance They have to show that this roof deck satisfies the variance. It is injurious to my home, and here's proof. This is injurious to my home. Variance finding can't be found. And finally, for the CDP, you have to find that this complies with the general plan. The general plan, guideline 5 says, as to the existing neighbors' views and privacy,
In
they must be
conclusion,
preserved to the maximum extent possible, the maximum extent feasible, actually.
In
This does the
conclusion?
opposite.
okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Burns. Next speaker.
My name is Mike Gray. I live at 31676 Sea Cove. There are basically two cottages, or what were cottage-sized houses, to the south of this property, which is 2 lots. When I also live in Santa Barbara, and there's been a horrible problem up there with Airbnbs and things like that because people rent them and have parties. And my really biggest objection is that deck. That says, let's have a party, okay? You know, you don't need 950 square feet or what it is as a deck. I understand how they might want it, but I think it's really going to impact the neighborhood. I think that you have these my house is 1,500 square feet. I'm a 1-story house. I have a big 2-story house below me, and I have another cottage behind me that's in sort of the same situation. You know, when we bought these houses, we pay a lot of money for some view. And so views are we hope that they're protected. And if someone were to, the house in front of me that's 2 stories were to add a story, I would have no view, okay? And I'm only 1 story. So I just think it's important to remember that, you know, that views are important to people, and that I just think that I think they should be able to have a deck, but nowhere near the size of this. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm David Rowan. I live at 31673 Sea Cove Drive. It would fall directly behind the subject property. Between my house and the ocean would be his. I have concerns over the view. They are extending the roof on this existing rather small home, and it seems like they're more than doubling the envelope or the footprint of the home. So some of my view will be taken away from me also, the privacy concerns that each of the other residents in the area have. Also, the street right now, the city added a parking lot on Sea Cove Drive, I don't know, 10 years ago. And the congestion on our street and the density of that area is very high, and that concerns me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I like your stash, by the way. You didn't hear me.
Good evening, board members. I'm Mario at 31674 Sea Cove Drive. Thanks for hearing us this evening on the matter. My client couldn't make it
Is that
for you
Nora?
guys, but thank you for coming down and seeing our little charming community down there. Some of their concerns are all these variances that they're trying to get shoved through on the quick path. And then we're concerned about this deck that's so far forward, it looks back into our house. And we're sitting on the couch and you've got glass railing. Not to mention that the height of the glass railing, there's going to probably be furniture out there, umbrellas that could obstruct our view going north. Mr. Gibbs had come out and took some pictures for you guys. I didn't get a chance to meet the two of you, but I encourage you guys to come down and have a look from our perspective. We're concerned about the impact of this construction. There's a lot of dirt that's going to be excavated out of there. The road, you could almost join 2 hands together and touch the PLs side to side. It's a very tight road. So I don't know how all this material is going to get pulled out. There's an older gentleman just behind us that's in his 90s. We owned a house over on Sea Cliff, and it's invasive to have a big project like this. I know they're entitled to build something, but our neighbors are old and ready to check out any time now, and want his mom to come down and stay at their house, obviously. But so the impact of the construction, the close proximity of everybody. I'm concerned about, there's a water feature apparently in the pool, so we're wondering if there's going to be any noise associated to that. It looked like a water wall. So we're concerned about that. And any landscaping we'd like to look at. When they bought the house, they'd had it rented for, I think, close to a decade. We've been down there for 20 years, not to mention the house that we had over on
Sea Cliff, but all the foliage just kind of got out of control. And over time, brush just slowly kind of creeps, and slowly but surely you're losing your view. But you take it back and go, gosh, remember that ocean view we had? And now we don't have it. But they were kind enough over the years to eventually cut it back just recently before the flagging went up. But I appreciate you guys for your time, your consideration. Mr. Gibbs, thank you for coming out and meeting with me. Very generous, and got to hear everything that we had to say. So thank you very much.
Mario, are you at 31674?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that house located behind this? Where's that located?
It's directly next door to
Next
them.
door to it? Okay.
And it's very tight down there.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been down. Well, I'm sure you've been down.
Yeah.
But, anyway,
You know it though? Okay.
we'd love to open up the home for you guys, and even if your other board members come back into town, I'd love to show them.
During
Thank you.
deliberations, I'll
sir.
describe what I saw.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mario. Anyone else? Anyone in the public wish to speak on this project? Going once, going twice? Oh, wait, you're out of turn.
Correct, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay. So anyone else from the public? No, no, you're okay. Now it's your turn. Sorry. Logistics. So you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. And we do appreciate the neighbors' comments. And I did meet with Mr. Burns. We had a very nice conversation. We're not unsympathetic to his privacy concerns at all. And we've discussed ways that we might be able to address them. However, no one is guaranteed 100% privacy, especially in an area that's as dense as the Sea Cove area, where there are so many decks and windows. There's really no way to completely eliminate people looking into houses and looking onto decks. However, we do understand that privacy is a serious concern, and we have come up with some possible solutions, at least to improve the situation. And some of those solutions are on the handouts I gave you, and we've discussed it privately. Possibly reducing the deck, pulling it back slightly, or adding some screen trees between the properties. I think either of those will help the situation. It might not make it perfect, and it certainly will be a sacrifice to my clients because the trees can block their view, and pulling the deck back reduces their view also up the coast and the functionality of it. So I would like to have a dialogue with the board we can discuss what the board thinks might be a good solution after you've had a chance to look at our exhibits. Regarding the house, someone mentioned that, and there's an impression that it's a very large development, but it really isn't. It's very modest. The proposed home is only 1,970 square feet, 73 square feet total, and 258 square feet of that is just to access the garage through stairways and a hallway. So the main house upper level is really only 1,715 square feet. All the ceilings are only 8 feet high, except for where they slope up to a maximum height of about 9.5, almost 10 feet, which is very modest. And I really feel like it's still very much in character with the neighborhood. It steps down the slope as the design guidelines require. And regarding construction staging, what we normally do in these situations is at the garage level, we have to carve out a turnaround area and carve out an excavated area for the garage itself. That's going to be the staging area. That's where the equipment can go and stage during construction and build up. It's not at all uncommon in Laguna Beach to have a tight squeeze for construction. Builders know how to do it, and we're committed to doing it with the minimum amount of impact to the neighborhood. Steve or Joseph or Mitch, do you want to add anything? Okay. I want to call your attention to the photographs that I took from Mr. Burns. It shows without trees and with trees, and I think it can provide a screen. Our only reluctance is whether or not that screen will impact our view and his view as well. But there's a panoramic view, and you can kind of see just proportionally whatever small amount of ocean view. And with all due respect, everybody values every single bit of their ocean view, but sometimes there has to be a compromise, and we're willing to consider some of the proposals that you have before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your rebuttal?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions to the applicant? All right, Christine?
The water feature, is that the pool on the edge of the pool and spa? Is that an infinity?
Not facing the Sea Cove. There is an infinity edge at the narrow end of the spa, but it's not facing Sea Cove. And we do, I
Facing
think I
the
forgot
ocean.
to mention, we have landscaping in front, and we've raised some of the trees to try to maintain privacy from the neighbor across the street. And you can see that in the exhibits there.
Any other questions? No? All right, public hearing is now closed. We'll move into board comments. Yeah, I see you itching over there.
Oh, yeah. But let me first talk about what I like. I think it's a modest project. I think you're entitled to build there. Construction is always a problem in a highly condensed area. That doesn't mean that people in there can't do home improvements. It needs to be staged and done correctly. I think staff and architects, particularly David, you've been around a long time, they'll do it right. And we're not going to disapprove a project because it has construction in a highly dense community. With respect to view equity, I find your project achieves view equity. I went in all the different homes, and the impacts are minor, and the views where they are impacted, the views of those homes, including Mr. Burns, are amazing. We don't have view preservation in this town. We have view equity. I believe this project achieves view equity. The high density and then mass and scale, as I said, I think it meets those guidelines. In fact, I think the whole project meets the guidelines with exception of privacy relating to the trees and overall the deck. And I'll just be candid. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what my colleagues say. They could change my mind, but I'm not prepared to approve the project tonight. That deck has to be substantially reduced for two reasons. One is it creates intrusion. This is a highly dense community, and there's no decks. I walked up and down that street. I don't know about other streets or on PCH, but no one has a deck remotely that size. I'm willing to give you a deck, but to quote every neighbor that I went to concerned about a party deck. And to me, it's different than having a backyard that's below the house. You can still have parties there, but it's not right off the kitchen, higher elevation, which causes a lot more noise and spread. And particularly from the houses that I saw, including the Nona Everhart's house at 31674 that Mario Vaughn was nice enough to show me. There's so many houses that can see this deck directly. And that big of a deck, I just cannot approve, particularly given the tightness of the community and the visualness of this deck from so many different houses. I mean, one person, I forget his name, is in bed up above, and it's right there. So I need to see what this deck's going to look like, and I doubt you're going to get rid of the deck. The ADU under it is, in my view, appropriate, and I'll talk about the coastal development permit. Let me talk about that briefly. Coastal development permit, I think we can make all the findings for that ADU, including finding one criteria 6 that is visually compatible with the community. It's low. You have 2 lots. You're entitled to build the structure if you're going to combine the lot to include that ADU. But again, I go back to the deck. The fact that you have a roof to build a big deck on doesn't mean that the deck is neighborhood compatible. I find that it is not. So what I'd like to see when it comes back is a couple of things. One is I want to see that deck reduced substantially. I can't tell you exactly where, but I don't want to say half. I would look at the other decks on Sea Cove and make it commensurate. And I think you could maybe go a little bit bigger because it is off your primary living area. But I mean, you look at Mr. Gray. I said Dave Gray, maybe it's Mike Gray, I'm not sure your first name. But a lot of the homes that have views facing the ocean have decks. I think we can go bigger, but not majorly bigger. I'd also look at it from the standpoint of, privacy from the other homes. You make a case for a larger deck that is with landscaping, works from a privacy standpoint for visual from the other homes. And I went to other homes, putting in landscaping that blocks the deck is not going to impair anybody's views from Sea Cove. I'll talk about Mr. Burns next. I think that Mr. Burns, while I don't agree with his view issues, I think he has privacy issues from the bedroom and his master bath, which happen to be on your side of the property. I think it's appropriate that the deck cannot be seen from his master bath or bedroom. Now, how do you accomplish that? Well, I'd like you guys to work that out, but if maybe you can't. So what I'd like you to do in return is to come up with a recommendation rather than saying, maybe we could do this, maybe you could do that, with a height for those trees that would give us some standard to look at to make sure that your project, again, in a highly dense, pocketed community, satisfies the board that the privacy guideline criteria is met. It's the best guidance I can give you. These are easy things. It's not overall project. It's reducing the deck and making sure that the trees, which you've already talked about in the handout we just got, have correct heights that work. In the first instance, it'd be great if you could work with the neighbors and come up with those heights. If not, come up with something that we can look at and you submit it. Then if neighbors have any objection, we'll go look and make a privacy determination. I somehow suspect that's not going to be a problem. It's not going to happen if you come up with fair heights for those trees to protect the privacy interests that I've talked about. So those are my views.
Okay, well, I'll follow that up. I agree with 90% of what Mr. Gibbs had to say. I don't agree with his evaluation on privacy. I'm looking at my pictures, and when I visited Mr. Burns' house, I don't see a privacy issue at all. You have to stand in very particular places to be able to see the privacy issue, and that could be easily mitigated with, I'm going to go with option, or whatever option is to get rid of that ficus tree, because I think that would improve your neighbor's views. And then add the silver sheen, and then have height limitations. But yeah, when I was at Mr. Burns' house, you could see the flags, but I had to stand very close to the balcony and at the foot of his bed to see the flags. I couldn't see the flags I don't have a picture from the bathroom because I couldn't see the flags. So I don't agree that there's a privacy issue. I think that could be mitigated with silver sheen. And everything else I agree with. Okay. Let Christine have her
Okay, I
comments,
think
and then I'll
we're-
come back to you.
Okay, thank you. Visiting all the properties, I think the privacy issue, of course, it's a very subjective issue because privacy is what you see and it's also what you hear. And I think the deck is quite large for this area. I would support a reduction in that deck. And I think with the screening, that helps. But that is an awfully large deck where there could be other accoutrements such as furniture, umbrellas, as someone pointed out. I think that's something to take into consideration as an impact on the neighbors. The pool is kind of an interesting, it looks very narrow and deep. What are the dimensions of the pool and spa?
It's 8 by 24 is the water dimension.
So that would be on a timer, I'm assuming, and would not be run, the filter and filtration system
Yeah,
would
it's
not be
gonna
after.
running 24/7, only when it's being used.
And that was more from the neighbor over on Mr. Bertolino was concerned about the noise and access from a pool and the noise that comes from that. So I guess my summation is,
I want to address the noise issue. There's space underneath the pool, because it's a shallow pool, to locate the pool equipment. So it's going to be basically in a vault.
okay, that
And
helps,
so
yes.
That will help with that
Yes,
situation.
thank you.
Sorry.
But other than that, I lost my train of thought here. I think that's the outdoor area is the deck is the main concern. And I think if you pulled it back or made a portion of it a deck, the other portion a green roof or whatever you want to do with that remainder of the roof. And the other thing is you said this is the only outdoor area really for the home. There is another outdoor area by the ADU, but I understand access is only from the ADU, and I don't know if there's an opportunity to put in a stairway to that area as an additional outdoor area, but it's just not a recommendation, but just a thought as far as when you come back with any changes. So I hope that was clear.
Thank you very much.
Chris, would you mind if I ask a question? Chair Gannon?
I've closed the hearing. I can, if it's okay with the other board members, to reopen the hearing?
Just for clarification. Neither you or Tom were specific on the distance the deck would be brought back to garner your approval. What are you thinking?
Correct. And
5 feet?
Well, just to be clear, there's
Negotiation.
no requirement that the board provide that level of specificity.
I understand,
Hang on,
Counselor.
let me finish. So you are free to express your position if you feel comfortable, but you're under no obligation to give him an exact dimension.
Well, I had suggested 6 feet less, bring it back 6 feet.
With that,
What about 4 feet?
I actually think more. I need to see it flagged. It's the dimension is, if I'm why don't you tell me the dimension? I'm not seeing it in my notes. The current dimensions of the deck
The depth of the deck, it's approximately 35.
from the kitchen toward the ocean.
I'm sorry?
the depth, that's the depth.
The depth.
Yeah.
The depth of the deck, it's 20 feet.
Yeah.
I think 21 feet.
My view is at least half, but that's my view. There's no deck that's even 10 feet there. And it's so out of character. I think it remains a party deck at 5 feet. I think it creates the same privacy problems with only 5 feet. So you may have a difference of opinion among board members, but my view is it needs to be substantially reduced. May be okay in my mind if it's, a half or a few feet over a half. I need to see it staked. And I also think you need to, communicate with the people in the, in the neighborhood. You may get buy off at a bigger deck than I would otherwise approve, but that's my view.
So it sounds like you're going to get a continuance. I recommend getting rid of that ficus tree just to enhance views for your neighbors. And then sticking with that silver sheen.
I would agree with that too. I was going to just mention.
Can I make one other point? Chair and I were talking kind of like why Thalman was giving the best views of the three of us about exactly what the view impairment was from Mr. Burns' bedroom and bath. So it's clear. My recollection of my photos are a little different than hers. But so it's clear if it's protected not from the deck, but from the interior of his bedroom, so he can't see the deck or somebody can't, if they're leaning over, turning around, that's one thing, but just standing on the deck, turning around, can't see into his bedroom or master bed or master bath, that would satisfy my concerns regarding privacy. So I hope that's helpful, whether it's by using screening or whatever else. I think the ficus probably should go too, but that created I was kind of visualizing the ficus being gone, opening up the deck's view into his bedroom too. So whatever it is, and I think I told David and you, Steve, this, you just, in my mind, you need to come up with a solution that protects the privacy of Mr. Burns' bedroom and bathroom.
And just to add on to that, Tom, the privacy is also noise as well, which
Yeah,
is
and the
not
noise
disputed.
goes
But
to
noise
the
isn't
to the
part of the
size of the deck,
Is it?
So I think we all agree on that. So.
So back to the ficus tree, because you drew a good point that it does enhance privacy. If there's a way, I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to keep maintaining that ficus tree, and then we can make a condition of approval on a height variance for that tree to further protect the views for the people and back. I'll leave that up to you guys.
David, I have confidence you'll come up with a solution. And I'm not asking for agreement. I'm asking for a solution. I'll make them when.
Wendy, when can we get them back here?
So originally I was considering the next available could be February 27th, but the submittals were due yesterday.
Of course.
So we're looking at March 13th, design review board hearing. Submittals would be due January 22nd.
I'm sorry, what was the date? March?
March 13th,
That's fine with me.
with submittals due January 22nd. But if you need more time, there's a March 27th hearing, submittals due February 5th.
I think March 13 will give us enough time.
Okay.
We'd like to be expeditious.
All right. Chair, I move that we continue item 5.7 at 31731C Cove Drive to March 13, 2025.
I'll second that.
Board Member Weil?
He's absent.
Oh, sorry. Board Member Gibbs. It's on autopilot. Board Member Gibbs?
What do I look like? Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman?
Yes.
And Chair Gannon?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0 for continuance to the March 13th Design Review Board hearing.
All right. We are moving on to agenda item 5.8, located at 2800 Chateau Way. Ex parte. Do we need a 5-minute bathroom break or anything? I am too. Let's keep going.
Let's get
You guys
it
need a
done.
break? All right, let's
We're on
do
a
it.
roll.
We're going to be out here before 8.
You know, I really thought it would be a 9.
I did
The
too.
big one. Got it.
Too. Okay, so ex parte, I had a site visit with Steve Cortani and then returned again later to have a second site visit.
And I
I
did a
had-
site visit and talked to Steve.
I would dispute the chair's characterization of the second site visit. She was on the phone in a car the whole time. All right.
That was my first site visit. That's why I
Oh.
went back for a second site visit.
All right. I had a site visit with Steve Cortani, and that was it.
Because we originally went to the wrong address, but it looked like the same project because of the staking. It was just a
That
lot
was
got us
another one of the many errors that Steve Cortani has done this week, but I won't mention the other ones.
It's all good. It was corrected. Who is going to make the presentation with staff?
I will.
Hi, Daniel.
Hello.
Like a voice of God. We're ready
So-
for you, Daniel.
All right, thank you. So item 5.8 is for a project at 2800 Chateau Way. This project was last heard by the board on April 27th, 2023, and the board had several comments regarding several of the design review criteria. And the applicant, since then, the project has been revised, and the applicant does have a presentation to go over all those changes tonight. And the project it's a vacant lot. It's located in the top of the world in an R1 low density residential zone. The project is proposed at 3,400 square feet approximately, with a 2-car, 471 square foot garage. It involves elevated decks and grading, retaining walls, and new vehicular access, as well as landscaping. The staff received 1 letter of support for the project, none in opposition. Staff is recommending approval if the board determines the project to be consistent with the design review criteria. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir. I keep wanting to call you Nathan, David, or Daniel. Lathan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get him confused with a high school boyfriend of mine. Anyway, so moving on.
Can we queue up our slides, please?
And we'll start the clock whenever the slides come up. Hugo, are you presenting? Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Hugo Soria, and I'm representing Dr. Mrs. Michelle Wang tonight on this project. And thank you, Michael, no, not Michael, but Daniel. You got me confused, Jessica. For your recommendation of approval. And we had this meeting, the first meeting about a year and a half ago, and from them, the board asked us to reduce the size of the house, to lower the building height, and to reduce the deck area. We have followed the board direction by reducing the habitable area, but from 4,079 square feet to 3,452 square feet, which is a 15% reduction of the floor area. This has eliminated the necessity of a three-car garage, which was reduced from 700 square feet to 471 square feet. Again, a 33% reduction footage. The overall appearance of the front massing has been reduced by 23% and the rear massing by 47%. The roof has been lowered by 2 feet at the highest peak and 5 feet at the rest of the structure. And at the elevator that we eliminated, about 7.5 feet in that area. The deck area has been reduced from 514 square feet to 367 square feet, which is a 29% reduction. Again, Daniel has noted that the redesigned house fits within the findings for a neighborhood compatibility and is recommending approval of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugo.
Thank you.
At this time, any member of the public wish to speak on this project? Yes.
Good evening, Chair Gannon and board members. I'm Jerry Myers. My wife and I own the property directly behind this at 2805 Chillon Way. And we have a few questions that weren't addressed when we met Hugo and Steve at the property a couple of months ago. After reviewing the plans that we found on the city, we can't find a rear elevation that shows any windows. It seems to be cut off by a retaining wall. So we look at the back of the house and there's a left and a right and a front, but there's no real rear elevation if you look at the plans. And we'd like to see that. Landscaping, there's a couple 30-foot trees. One of them's in the right rear of the corner, which is of the property, which is in front of our house. And we'd like to see that tree not be a 30-foot tree at maturity, because it's in the very rear of the property, which is right adjacent to the front of our house in our ocean view. There's another one opposite. 30 foot is what it. Well, it needs to. I think it should just stay, below the. There's such a steep gradient. Maybe 8 or 10 feet. I don't think it needs to grow to that height because it's all the way up to the highest part of the back of the property towards ours. So
we can determine that later with the applicant.
yeah, I'm not a landscape guy, but I know a tall tree when I see one. It's tree number 2 on L1, landscape 1. It's a pretty big tree. And then there's another one in the front of the property on the left side, which is a tree number 1. So anyway,
The south elevation.
when you look at the left and right elevations, it shows the rear yard just stair stepping with stairs going up, but If there's going to be an ADU in there, I would think that there would have to be a pad or something, the grade lowered at the time of construction, so you don't have to remove all that dirt through stairwells at a later time. So when you look at the side elevations, you don't see that. And we're concerned that should an ADU get approved for the rear of the house, we think that it should be built from the same height that the house starts and not up on the hill and coming up into our view. So we want to keep it in the building envelope. Let me see here. And then unfortunately, most of the neighbors that met with Steve and Hugo, their power's out in top of the world, so they're all stuck at home. So they couldn't show up tonight. Except for you guys, yeah. And one of our neighbors is looking for a generator for her mom for an oxygen machine right now. So it's kind of a hectic up there. So we have, yeah, it's kind of a bummer. It's a PS. Anyway, it was a great meeting with you guys. You know, you explained everything. We had a few questions about the exterior lighting and view and making sure they're down. There's supposed to be 250 square foot of roof space for solar panels. We want to make sure that those don't blast us because we look directly down on top of this, and it's the same with our neighbors on both sides. We're appreciative of the fact that they reduced the size and the mass of the building because it is one of the biggest houses in the neighborhood. It's twice as big as ours, and a lot bigger than others, but it does fit with the neighborhood and approval with the site. So lighting, tree heights, retaining walls in the back, and if they're going to do an ADU, we're totally okay with that. We just want to make sure it stays within the building envelope and doesn't be built up on the hill. We think it should be built at the same level as the house, which we require, but it doesn't show that when you look at the side elevations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Does that conclude your comments?
Yeah, this includes my.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on 2800 Chateau Way?
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Dexter, and I own the property at 2815 Shalon Way, so that puts us 2 houses over. I'm not happy with the staking program for the wooden stakes because they've been blowing down, and I'm not even sure how much it impacts my view. So I think the staking has been improper. I haven't seen how much it's going to impact my horizon line. So I just don't have a real good basis to object other than that I'm objecting to low to no information. I need to have information to see how it impacts my view, number one. And number two, the compatibility with the neighborhood. I'm a big neighborhood kind of guy. I've actually written books on how neighborhoods progress, grow, and die, and are reborn. So I'm real big on how the structures fit in with the continuity of the neighborhood. I have to say, I don't believe this one really does. I guess you would call the architectural style Spanish colonial or something of that ilk. And it looks very grand and it looks very out of place for this neighborhood. We're kind of a modest, unassuming neighborhood, and this really sticks out. And I'm also concerned about I don't have the actual specifications, but from the eyeballing the plans, the ADU that fits there in the backyard, those lots, once you get to the lot, it goes straight up, you know? And so to squeeze an ADU in there with a lot elevation that's so extreme at the end of the lot, I think would pose some problems. It gets very congested in there. I know you have your setbacks, you have your, requirements for how much foot you can allow, but it looks like it's pretty tight back there and congested. And dense living is kind of what we have here in the coastal areas, but I think that's a little bit overdoing it. And also, and also my next door neighbor, Vera, who can't be here, she's the one searching for a generator for her mother because we don't have juice up there. She is very concerned about privacy. According to the plans that she saw, she thinks the windows look right in to her bedroom window. And so she talked to me to express that concern that her her privacy would be impacted by this house. Now, the first version was bigger, by hundreds of square feet, but this version still seems to be out of character with the neighborhood. Our house is like 1,900 square feet. This one is one of the biggest houses in the neighborhood, and so I would object to its size. I object to its continuity with the neighborhood.
In
and also
conclusion?
the architectural configuration. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Hello, I'm Susan Dexter, and the overall roof height still looks too high for the neighborhood, according to the polls. And the houses across the street are, like Steve said, modest one-story houses, typical top of the world, 1,800 to 2,000 square feet. And this one is really too large, 36. It was 4,000, now 3,600 square feet. And it's just out of character for the neighborhood. And I think the plan showed solar panels on the back.
That's out of our purview. Solar panels are out of our purview.
Well, anyway, so I would be concerned about the glare and the unsightliness from that. And then there's the privacy, because it looks into her mother, she's taking care of her mother, which is why she can't be here tonight, because we don't have power. But looks into her 93-year-old mother's bedroom. And so the character doesn't fit in with the neighborhood. It doesn't preserve the natural coastal environment, and it doesn't maintain a visually harmonious community, the style. And our neighborhood is full of traditional style, modest homes, and the subject property is more of a European Mediterranean style, and the scale is wrong. It's too large for the lot. And it's large, much larger than all the other houses. And so the building looks really high density, especially with the 900 square foot ADU and behind the house. And is that a garden, a planter that's in between the property line and the ADU? The plans aren't clear. I think hopefully you can clear that up. And also view impairment when you're standing up on Alta Laguna, in the corner of Chelan, you look down at the ocean and you can see how the poles are just obstructing the whitewater view. And the trees also are too tall in the landscaping plan. They would be blocking our view. And so Vera, the lady who has the 93-year-old mother, had some questions for me. She didn't understand. It's not clear on the plans. The height of the poles are lower than it shows on the plans. And so she wants to know exactly what is the height. And the two windows on the back, they're not drawn on the plans, but she's been told that they were two windows. And the second floor, so on the plans, the windows are missing on the second floor. And on the ADU, she would like to know the planter. Is that a planter or a garden in between the lot line and the ADU in the house? Because that's not clear. And also, how safe is the retaining wall? She would like to know that.
In conclusion?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Dexter. Any relation to the Dexter?
Yeah, to Steve Dexter?
No, Michael C. Hall, he plays Dexter on the TV show. Dexter.
Oh, no, but, in another life.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you're up. 3 minutes rebuttal.
Thank you, Chair Gannon. And Happy New Year, Board. Happy New Year, staff. My name is Steve Kuwaratani. I'll start off by saying we did have a great neighborhood meeting. I appreciate everyone who attended. And I'll point out to the board that, again, we received a positive staff report. If you look under your design guidelines, varied architectural styles are actually suggested in the city of Laguna Beach. We're not in the 60s anymore where everything is a ranch style track. So architects have the ability to express their creative ability. Number two, the stakes were certified. And if you look at the cover of the report that I gave you, or we could put it back up on the image, it shows a very accurate rendering that we are lower than the highest roof of the adjacent property. And that is accurate. We were about the same height originally, and we came down 2 feet. We'll accept a condition that no vegetation is higher than the eave of the roof. We're happy to do that. Chair Gannon pointed out that solar panels are not under your purview. And furthermore, we're not proposing an ADU this evening. To answer the question about windows in the rear elevation, there are no windows proposed on the upper level. There are 2 windows and a door on the lower level that are not going to impact the neighbors. There are no skylights being proposed for any kind of light pollution. There are no uplights being proposed. Everything conforms to the good neighbor policy of dark skies. So I think that's what I have to say. Hopefully that's going to help the neighbors. Again, no windows on the upper level will lower the vegetation. The stakes were certified, and if we look at the rendering, and I did send that to the Dexters, they're going to clearly see that there is no view impact from their home. Thank you.
Steve, any questions to the applicant? Go ahead.
First of all, I'm looking at the elevation showing windows at the second story. Steve, I'm looking at the east elevation showing windows at the second story.
Oh, what sheet is that?
A10, it's under the elevations. These are,
Is this the revised plans?
I think so. This is in the packet under elevations.
It says revised.
They have different elevations?
Not sure, I didn't.
There's an attachment with elevations. That's what I was looking at. So have you revised those elevations? This is attachment 3.
I'm not sure what you're looking at, Tom. Is it labeled? What I was stating,
Come up here and look. I just want to know if those windows, because you said there's no windows at the second story.
windows at the rear elevation facing the neighbors.
No, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you put it on the screen? So the proposed east elevation is facing neighbors, isn't it?
The rear and south of it.
Just clarify it for me. I'm not, I don't
Okay,
wanna-
thank you.
What?
There are no windows proposed.
No, the other one, that one. Yeah,
Yeah, but how about the other north, I guess, north or south?
Yeah, those side elevations aren't facing the neighbors on Chelan.
so the proposed east elevation is not facing the neighbors?
No, it would be well, that's a side elevation
Because the
there.
west elevate, I know it's the
Yeah.
side, and the west elevation has no upper story windows.
So, yeah, unfortunately, when there's an issue of how these are labeled,
Is that, where are you looking at?
That's looking, if you're looking at the house, these windows are facing the left house and they have no objection. There's no privacy issue there.
That's on the west side.
That's on the west
yeah,
side.
it's a
And so the
side elevation, Tom.
Side, you're looking at it right there. And they're-
It's not facing the neighbors on Chelan.
and those windows are very minimal.
Okay, on the east, I know, I'm not making a decision. I just want to know the facts.
Okay.
Right.
So you've got windows at the second level on the east side, which does face a neighbor or does not face a neighbor?
The right, faces neighbor to the right.
I would suspect it does.
Yes.
You know what has happened here? That ADU has been eliminated.
Forget the ADU, I'm talking about the main
Yes.
house.
So that's still a side elevation. That's a side elevation, Tom. That's not a rear elevation.
I understand. I'm just
Okay.
asking.
Yes, there are windows on the side elevation, not facing Chelan, but
Okay,
facing
last
the
ti-
facing the neighbor
Facing.
on the same street.
Okay, there was, in the last, when I was here before, the first time I was on the board, there was a privacy issue with 2808 Chateau Way.
That's
Is that
the-
is that
that's
on
the
the
house
east or
to
west?
the north.
That's the house to the north?
So back.
Right. I spoke to her, and you can see she is not here.
Right, and how, what was?
She basically said, look, we have a tiny little spa there, and we're concerned about it, but our vegetation has grown to the point where we don't have an issue. That's why she's not here.
Are you referring to the house to the left?
To the house to the
Okay,
left.
so let's use left, right, and back and
Yeah,
front.
that'd be a lot easier.
Okay.
Okay, no, I think that answers that question. I have
Okay.
one other question.
And that's
Um,
Christine that lives to the left?
I'm sorry?
Christine, her name is Christine?
It may be Christine. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't you guys do your questions? I have one other question, but I can't
I have
remember.
no more
it.
questions. I'm ready for comments.
Wanna
Do you
give me
have
a s-
more
Then just
questions?
give me a second to
Okay.
make sure I'm cool with this.
All the bug. Grab a water.
Okay, I guess I don't have any other questions, but.
Thank you,
that-
Tom.
thanks.
I'll start off with this one. We're closing public communication, so we'll go into board comments. I was close to approving this project last time. I thought it was, I think this is a more significant project and more approvable than last time. I know that the previous board wasn't in favor of it, and unfortunately, I was the last to speak and was absolutely dumbfounded by the way that we treated you. So to be kinder this round, as we all should be kind to each other, I'd like to say congratulations. This is a much better project than previously proposed, and I was close to approving the last project. So because this is smaller in scale, I don't see any view impacts. I didn't see any privacy impacts. Those windows facing the neighbors are minimal at best. The vegetation, condition of approval to make the vegetation to cap it at the eaves sounds reasonable. And yeah, those are my notes. I can approve this project this evening with those conditions, and I look forward to hearing what the board members have to say.
I remember my question.
Go ahead. Yes, please do.
Because I think it's important that a member of the public raised it and I didn't get. Do you have a rear elevation that you submitted? Did you guys know if it's in this?
Instead of using north, south, east, west, because it's confusing up there. Yeah.
What,
just,
is it in the
backyard.
package? Because we had a member of the public, we had a member of the public who complained that there was no rear elevation, which is the elevation facing his house. So if.
Well, that's
if it is-
pertaining to an ADU. If there was proposed ADU and they removed that.
Yeah, I think they were looking at the ADU that was closer to them, Tom, and the ADU has been eliminated.
I know, I'm asking, is there a rear elevation that was submitted with this, with the package?
May I approach?
Yeah, let me see.
Wendy, can you put it up on the screen? Okay. The backyard.
It's a south elevation. What's this?
That's that. And so he sketched in the windows at the bottom that you can't see. You know what got fell?
Hang on, Steve, Chair, can we have him?
Why don't you go back?
His microphone.
What Steve handed me was not an elevation. Well, it is an elevation, but I think it was kind of view. It doesn't show the building with the removal of the ADU. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, we had some issues between rescheduling and we eliminated the ADU. And I think unfortunately, plans weren't updated. You know.
Actually, they are updated. We have copies of the revised plans.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Do they have a rear?
No, no, it's blank.
What page is it?
Oh, yes, so. And you'll see that it's missing the ADU.
That's
Plans, not the colored elevations.
A11.
Oh,
There we go.
it's on
Well,
the
that's what I just showed, Tom.
I'm looking at it. Is that a realistic elevation? In other
That's
words,
a
does it-
realistic elevation.
Does it show windows? Does it show materials?
There are
anything
no,
like that?
the only thing that was showing was the upper floor, and there are no windows on the upper floor. There are two windows and a door on the lower portion, but, you know, they
Okay,
can't
I
be
would-
seen.
I would request that the board open the public hearing to let the person who complained about not having seen the elevation which faces his house to take a look and see if he has any comments about it, because I don't feel comfortable.
What's the point of that?
I don't feel comfortable with that, Tom. I think in a public hearing like this, we've had a give and take from public comment. we've had an opportunity to look.
And
at
it's
the plans.
irrelevant at the end
I
of the
think
day.
that's,
Well, the reason I raise that is if the public has not had an opportunity to observe,
but they have.
well, this is not an accurate elevation. That's the problem.
The south elevation is not accurate?
Wendy, can you confirm that what you see on the TV screen is an accurate elevation?
In other words, it has no windows or nothing?
This is the south
They're
elevation that was
telling me,
included
she
with
wrote
the
on here that there are windows on it.
plans.
That's what I'm saying.
Attachment 2.
Huh?
Yeah, that's the
Right,
same
it's below
elevation.
grade.
Are you saying that the only portion of the rear elevation that can be seen by Mr. Myers' residence is above the line there, which shows no windows?
Right.
Correct.
That's the grade line.
Because that lot goes
See,
uphill, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The lower,
Where it says existing grade, that's the current grade,
right,
and that's going to block the building from the Myers residence?
exactly.
And so the only portion that you see from the Myers residence is what's above the grade line?
Yeah, it's
And how
about,
far above the grade
it's
line?
about
is it?
4 feet or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll start with my comments. I can agree with the chair that I think this project, you followed the board's direction. You reduced the size of the home significantly by an average of 25%. I think there's more in some instances with the garage. I think the architecture, as you pointed out, Steve, I think we're not a city of track homes, which is a nice thing. We don't want to be like Irvine. But I think it's a great project. It meets all the design review guidelines. I have no concerns about approving it tonight.
Do you have more comments?
No, but I have comments.
Okay.
I haven't made my comments yet.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I felt from looking at the house that it's neighborhood compatible. I like the design. I think it's I remember the project. It's a much better design and much more neighborhood compatible. It's unless somebody asks us to look for their house to show views, we can't make any determination of views. So I'm not going to find lack of view equity in this case. And with respect to privacy, again, without letting us know and have an opportunity to see, it didn't strike me that there were any privacy concerns. My only concern is regarding the rear elevation, and I'm going to support the project based upon what's the page? A11, which was described to me during the discussion, during the questioning, and the representation that from the Myers residence, the only portion of the project with the ADU removed that he can see above the grade line is about 4 to 5 feet. With that representation and based upon that representation, then I think the elevation presented is as to the Myers residence accurate. I will approve the project.
So Chair, I'd like to, the condition, yeah, I think it's in the resolution, isn't it?
the eaves, the trees meet the eaves.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Sorry. Let me pull up the resolution. Okay. I make a motion to approve the project 5.8 at 2800 Chateau Way. And that we adopt resolution 221313, approving design review 221313 for a new single-family residence and garage, elevated decks, grading, retaining walls, new vehicular access, and landscaping on a vacant building site in the R1 residential low-density zone, and finding said action exempt from CEQA under section 15303 with the following conditions: that any landscaping not exceed the roof line. Roof line eaves, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Eaves.
Correct.
Roof
So it's-
eaves. Just eaves?
Eaves.
Okay.
Say,
That was-
Adam and Eve.
Correct, right? That's what it is, yeah.
Okay. Eaves, E-A-V-E-S. Eaves.
EAVE, that's fine.
I thought they were roof eaves.
You can second.
I'll second.
Board Member Gibbs,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Thalman,
Yes.
and Chair Gannon.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes for 3-0 approval.
Are we adjourned?
But
Is there any other, see,
there's no other business.
no other business?
All right, we are adjourned till January 23rd, 2025, in 2 weeks.